So I've always been a meat eater. And the amount of meat I eat fluctuates depending on what my goals are, and so on and so forth. But a few years ago, probably about a decade ago, a friend of mine invited me to go to the Vegan Food Fest that was being held in Toronto. And I went, and I'm pretty open-minded, and a couple of disclaimers. I'm always learning. I don't have a hard stance on anything, really. But I went. I wanted to see what why she decided why she was vegan. Of note, and this is actually part of the topic, is she actually started eating meat shortly after that weekend, and that had nothing to do with me. But one of the keynote speakers there was Rich Roll from Finding Ultra fame in his podcast, and he spoke about his transition from going, just eating a regular quote unquote diet to being a vegetarian to going plant-based. And it was a really good talk. It's really inspiring. And obviously, he got healthier because of it. And the question that I had in the audience, and I didn't ask it because it wasn't the right median, and he wasn't talking about the science of it, so that wasn't his goal. But I wanted to ask, and I was curious to this day, was did he get healthier because he upped his plant consumption? Did he get healthier because he reduced his meat consumption? Or did he get healthier because he cut out processed and junk foods? So that was a question I know I had. That's a question I've always had when it comes to this carnivore versus plant-based debate. And again, I know I'm looking at it from both extremes, but regardless, that's what the topic of this particular video is. Why, and this is my observation, again, so I know this is a very contentious, kind of controversial topic, is what I've noticed with patients and friends and family is people that adopt a plant-based diet or plant-based eating plan tend to get healthier almost immediately. But here's the caveat. Those health benefits only last for so long. So my second observation is, why do people that, not everyone, but why do a lot of people that go plant-based or vegan eventually go back to eating meat? So we're going to look at this through the lens of recovery, longevity, and anti-aging. So here are my thoughts on why people get healthier initially when they start a vegan diet or a plant-based diet. When we get to a certain age, due to accumulated stressors or just normal metabolism, our body, and this is what I cover in detail in the bystander effect, our bodies start accumulating aged or senescent cells. And those aged or senescent cells can lead to a lot of health issues down the road. And for the obvious reason that they're dysfunctional cells. They start breaking down, the proteins in them become denatured. They start releasing inflammatory chemicals, and these chemicals, through paracrine senescence or the bystander effect, cause other nearby cells to break down through, again, paracrine senescence or cell-to-cell communication. So in order to eliminate these cells, what we need to do is we need to stimulate autophagy. And autophagy can't occur in a caloric excess, and it can't occur, or it's diminished in the presence of certain amino acids. So by adopting a plant-based diet, two things often happen. We eliminate the amino acids, arginine, glutamine, some of the branched-chain amino acids that stimulate protein synthesis or mTOR, shutting off autophagy. The other thing that tends to happen, this is not always the case, is we eat less when we go plant-based, and that can either happen subconsciously, or that might be an intentional thing that we do. So by restricting our calories, restricting certain amino acids, and the third thing is certain plant-based compounds can actually stimulate autophagy as well. So what we get is we get a clearance of the senescent burden, we get a removal of the aged and damaged cells, and we benefit from that. We get rid of damaged cells. There's an inherent benefit directly, but there's also the benefit from reducing the damage of nearby cells, and so on and so forth. Number one. Number two, and this is another theory, is the consumption of plant-based foods is also, also increases our micronutrients. Certain micronutrients increases our antioxidant consumption and our antioxidant production, leading to other health benefits. So I think that's why a lot of people tend to get healthier initially adopting a plant-based diet. So the next question then is, and this is where the controversy arises, is why do people that are on plant-based diets, again, this is generalization, tend to get unhealthier with time, and or why do they start eating meat or adopting a more balanced diet, or even going as far as adopting a carnivore type diet? That's what we're going to deal with next. So why do people who, usually that have gone from like a normal balanced diet, that have gone plant-based, do they eventually start eating meat, or do they find that they're getting unhealthier, losing muscle mass, not being as energetic while sticking to a plant-based diet? So here's my theory, is once you've adopted a plant-based diet and you've derived the benefits of it, mainly clearing aged or senescent cells, then that type of eating, from an aging, longevity, and recovery perspective, is no longer beneficial or advantageous. And this is why, without enough calories and without enough amino acids, again, arginine, glutamine, as well as the branched chain amino acids, our body doesn't benefit from the effects of mTOR. And what's mTOR? mTOR is a gene that's required and responsible for muscle growth, nerve growth, and other growth of other healthy tissues such as bone and connective tissue. So if we've gone plant-based and we're not getting enough amino acids and we're not getting enough calories in, our bodies are not going to benefit from the effects of renewed and repaired muscle tissue, nerve tissue, bone tissue, and connective tissue. So eating, incorporating meat into a diet when there's no unhealthy cells or there's very little unhealthy cells is a more beneficial approach than continuing to eat plant-based. Now here's a couple caveats to that. I have friends and colleagues who are plant-based and who are very healthy because they're mindful to get enough amino acids, to get enough protein. It's easier to get protein and amino acids through animal-based foods, but it's still doable with plant-based sources. So that's number one. If you can get your full intake of amino acids through plant-based sources, you can still derive the benefits. That being said, animal-based proteins are the easiest way to get amino acids. That leads into this take is, and I mentioned this in my book, The Kick Acid Diet. The best diet for bone growth and the prevention of osteoporosis is a mixed diet, plants and animals, that is alkaline. So you want enough alkaline minerals to prevent bone destruction, but then you want, and that's, if you want to get all scientific, that's osteoclastic activity, but you want enough animal-based foods to stimulate bone growth or osteoblastic activity, as well as the bone growth benefits of growth hormone, other hormones that are stimulated with the consumption of animal protein. And then my last caveat to that is, if you're dealing with someone who's elderly or someone who has a lot of muscle wasting for whatever reason, the benefits of mTOR and muscle growth and just an anabolic state in general outweighs the clearance of the senescent burden or getting rid of aged cells. So what they find is someone who is elderly or someone who has frail or whatnot, they don't get the same benefits of going plant-based as someone who's maybe younger or in their middle age. So that's why I think a lot of people will start adopting a meat-based or a balanced diet or a carnivore-based diet once they've gone plant-based. And again, to sum that up, they don't have the accumulation of aged cells that have to be dealt with. So healthy cells require growth and stimulation. Aged and senescent cells require repair and elimination. So what's the solution? Again, I'm not a dietitian, I'm not a nutritionist, so I'm not going to give you these specifics on what foods to eat in order to manipulate this. But what I will say from an aging, longevity and recovery perspective, my approach personally, and my approach kind of within my scope of practice for patients, is if you're not healthy, and that's a very general way of looking at it, or you're coming off a prolonged or repetitive bouts of stress, whether it's work-related, family-related, whatever, and your body's not responding the way that you think it should to either treatment, training, nutrition, I think a plant-based approach initially is really good and really effective to eliminate those aged and dysfunctional, those zombie cells. Now, once those cells are eliminated, and unfortunately right now there's no current tests or assays on the market to know whether or not you have senescent cells. There are lab markers, but again, it gets pretty technical and invasive. But if you feel confident that you've eliminated those cells, then I would start I would start introducing meat back in your diet. And again, I don't like, I think we label diets and it becomes restricted. So is it carnivore or the mixed? I don't think it matters. You want to start introducing meat back into your diet in order to give your body the growth stimulus to benefit from increasing muscle mass, for having a healthy nervous system, and to having, say, enough bone mass. So again, to recap, these are my observations as to why people are initially healthier when they adopt a plant-based diet, but eventually those health benefits tend to dwindle or plateau, and why people start eating meat again, and why they feel better initially once they incorporate meat back in their diet. So this is all looked at through a lens of recovery, longevity, and anti